Hello, my name is Chris Burns and welcome to The Network, a program where we connect with those making the news in order to get deep inside the subjects. But watch out, they have to answer in 25 seconds or else. Let's have a look at today's subject.
From the street, anger and frustration. That 8 years of a socialist government, plus a financial crisis and real estate meltdown, have left Spain with 21% unemployment. Among youth, the jobless rate tops 45%, many of them indignados, who've marched all the way to Brussels to protest their plight. Spain's 38 million voters face a right and left both promising austerity. The Popular Party, led by Mariano Rajoy, is saying little about where they'll cut. Both Rajoy and socialist leader Alfredo Pérez Rubalcaba promised to cut the public deficit from 6% of GDP this year to the Eurozone mandated 3% by 2013. Already, the socialist government of José Luis Zapatero raised sales taxes, froze pensions, increased the retirement age, and cut public workers' wages, sparking widespread protests. Another issue for the next government, how to deal with Basque militants, who just announced an end to their bloody fight for independence.
In this edition of The Network, from the European Parliament here in Brussels, José Manuel García Margallo, European MP and Vice President of the Economic and Monetary Affairs Commission. From Madrid, Diego López Garrido, Spanish Secretary of State for the European Union. And from Barcelona, Xavier Sala y Martin, Professor of Economics at Columbia University since 1996. First question to all of you, starting with José Manuel. During this debate, we've seen the left and the right are promising more austerity. Aren't we running the risk of entering recession? Or maybe we're already there.
José Manuel. Well, what Rubalcaba promised is exactly the opposite. He surprised everyone when he showed up saying he needed 2 more years to accomplish the budgetary goals fixed by the government of which he was vice prime minister. If he was in charge at this time, that would have led to a general panic and raised the Spanish risk premium to astronomical levels.
José Manuel Diego, your answer.
I think that in these moments, Spain must deal with the situation not only with austerity measures. The country does have to follow the spending plan agreed with the European Union, but it must also implement stimulus measures, and the EU should help with this, for instance, cutting interest rates of the ECB. Other measures must be implemented in Spain, like taxing the ones who have the most, so that they contribute more to society.
Xavier, are these austerity measures realistic?
There's no choice on austerity. It has to be done, because if nobody lends you money, then you have to go on without it. This is a problem of supply and demand. Therefore, if the demand shrinks as a consequence of austerity, we must find a way of boosting it.
Another question for everybody. A big question in this debate. How can they maintain unemployment subsidies and the pension system while at the same time reducing the deficit? José Manuel.
I agree that the only formula to preserve the welfare state in the current situation is to grow and create jobs. Exactly the opposite of what we've seen during the past 8 years. To reach that, we must unblock credit. At the moment, all the money goes to the public sector, and there's no money left for private companies so that they can create jobs. We must also implement the structural reforms that have been postponed for the past 8 years.
Okay, Diego, we heard from Mr. Rajoy yesterday evening. How are we to keep unemployment subsidies and the pension system, as he said?
Well, it's impossible with the PP in power that they can preserve the pension system and unemployment subsidies if they intend to cut the taxes of those who have the most even more. and to further cut the tax on capital income and corporate tax. It is absolutely impossible. That's why what must be done is exactly the opposite, so that we can save the welfare and heal the economy. The state must act because private credit has totally run dry.
Xavier, did Mr. Rajoy tell the truth?
I have no idea what Mr. Rajoy is going to do. I'm not a fortune teller, so I don't know if it was Rajoy or Rubalcaba who told the truth. What is sure is that if the measures to create economic growth are not taken quickly, we won't be able to pay any of this. Because, as I said, restrictions are not imposed by Spain. Restrictions are set by the ones who lend you money. If there's no money, you can't do anything.
Mr. José Manuel, will they increase the retirement age? Will people be forced to work longer? This is a big question when we talk about pensions.
First of all, we must know what kind of a situation we're going to find, because I'm sure the whole left by the socialist government is much bigger than they're letting on. If they said that next year an adjustment of 16 billion euros must be made, I estimate that translates to 40 billion. That's the starting point when thinking of how to change the country. That was moving well when they came to power, but now it's ground to a halt.
Okay, Diego, if we need this austerity, how can we cut expenses? Pensions, social services, education? How can we do it?
I think the aspects you mentioned must not be cut. And since they mustn't be cut, what must be done is to grow and create jobs, using, for instance, a tax on large fortunes, and restructuring corporate tax, because it's a scandal they are paying much less than they're legally supposed to. This is the way to deal with this. PP's formula of cutting taxes to the ones who have the most makes it impossible to preserve the welfare state.
Javier, another question. Is it necessary to increase value-added tax? 18% is below the European average.
Something is clear. We can't maintain our services with the taxes as they are now. We're creating an unsustainable deficit which prevents people from lending to us. I don't know what must change, but I think a little of everything.
Okay, Xavier. Mr. Rubalcaba asked for a Marshall Plan for Europe. Where could this money come from?
Well, this is one of the subjects which is going to be addressed at the European Council meeting on December the 9th. Growth, job creation, a plan regarding these aspects. I believe one of the possible sources of the money must be the International Financial Transactions Tax, supported by the European Commission and the European Parliament. I didn't hear a word from Popular Party about it. I don't know if they support it or not, but I think this can be a good place to find European investment for a Marshall Plan.
José Manuel, how must we deal with the anger of the indignados?
We must give them hope for the future, just like we must give confidence in Spain to the markets. Nowadays, the problem, as Salah is underlining, is that nobody lends us money. They don't because they don't trust the borrower, which is the socialist government. They don't trust the infrastructure, which is the financial sector. It was once the best in the world, but now it's the second from last after Greece. They don't trust that a country ruled by the politics we've seen can grow and pay the money back.
Diego, would you be willing to hold talks with ETA?
ETA has said it has finished its terrorist activities. All this must culminate with ETA's disappearance and de-armament. This will be done with the application of the law, and only with the application of the law. For certain, there will be no negotiation. This is never, never a way of dealing with a terrorist group.
Okay, José Manuel, your answer.
About ETA, law and the rule of law. I mean, ETA has been defeated with legal instruments, and this alone, without looking for shortcuts as they've tried in the past, and without falling into the temptation of negotiating in order to sign a headline in the newspapers, law and the rule of law.
Thank you, everybody. That's all. I'd like to thank our guests for their participation. José Manuel García Margallo, Diego López Garrido, and Xavier Sala y Martín. I'm Chris Burns. See you next time in the next edition of The Network.